It's 2025, and the NBA world finds itself in an all-too-familiar crossroads, the allure of a generational talent looming large in the draft. This year, all eyes are on Cooper Flagg, a 6'9" prodigy out of Duke whose combination of defensive versatility, basketball IQ, and offensive skill has teams drooling. But let's ask the question everyone is whispering. Are teams actually tanking on purpose to land him? Now, tanking isn't new in the NBA. From the process Sixers to the Wembanyama sweepstakes just a couple of years ago, we've seen teams strategically position themselves for draft day magic. But this year feels different. The stakes are higher, and the potential reward, landing Flagg, is so enticing that it's reshaping the way the league operates. Take the Wizards. They've been stuck in rebuilding purgatory for over a decade, with a revolving door of talent and little to show for it in terms of playoff success. Sure, they've got a promising young core with Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, and Bub Carrington, each bringing unique skills to the table. Coulibaly is a versatile wing with excellent defensive instincts. Sarr is a skilled big man with rim-protecting abilities and a developing offensive game. And Carrington provides playmaking and shot creation. And then there's Jordan Poole, a proven scorer with an explosive offensive arsenal who thrives in isolation and pick-and-roll situations. However, when you look at their dismal 6-29 record, it's hard to ignore the glaring need for a talent to elevate the franchise. Enter Cooper Flagg. Flagg's all-around game, marked by his elite shot blocking, high basketball IQ, and ability to score from all three levels, would make him an ideal fit for the Wizards. He's the kind of two-way star they've been desperately missing, a player who can anchor their defense while also being a threat on offense. Pairing Flagg with Coulibaly on the wings would create a formidable defensive tandem, capable of disrupting passing lanes and switching across multiple positions. Meanwhile, Sarr and Flagg would complement each other in the front court, with Sarr's size and interior presence freeing Flagg to roam and make plays. Defensively, Flagg's versatility and rim protection would cover for Poole's known struggles on that end, allowing Poole to focus on what he does best, creating and hitting tough shots. Flagg's presence in the paint would give the Wizards a reliable safety net, anchoring their defense while also sparking fast breaks that would benefit Poole's ability to score in transition. Offensively, Flagg's ability to create his own shot and facilitate for others would lighten the load on Carrington, allowing him to focus more on his scoring and playmaking. Flagg and Poole could form a dynamic duo. Flagg's unselfish playstyle would complement Poole's scoring instincts. With Flagg's ability to facilitate and stretch the floor, Poole would have more room to operate in isolation and off screens where he excels. Poole's gravity as a scorer would open up opportunities for Flagg to capitalize on mismatches. Together, they could form a lethal inside-outside tandem, with Flagg's steady all-around game balancing Poole's high-risk, high-reward scoring approach. Flagg's leadership and competitive fire would also be invaluable for the Wizards, helping to stabilize a team that has often lacked direction. Pairing him with Coulibaly, Sarr, Carrington, and Poole would give Washington one of the most intriguing young cores in the league, a balanced mix of scoring, defense, and playmaking. If the Wizards manage to land Flagg, it could be the start of a genuine turnaround for the young team. It could foster a winning culture that has eluded DC for years. But DC isn't alone. The Nets, a team that has gone from being a supposed super team with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden to the basketball equivalent of a garage sale. They've offloaded their stars, dealt Mikal Bridges for a war chest of draft picks, and are now led, if you can even call it that, by the perpetually injured and confounding enigma that is Ben Simmons. Let's be honest, this team isn't focused on winning games, they're focused on maximizing their lottery odds and praying for a franchise savior. Flagg is the kind of player Nets fans dream about, a talent who can score, defend, and lead a team. If Brooklyn manages to draft him, it would mean finally hitting the reset button with purpose. Flagg's elite two-way game would give the Nets an identity they sorely lack. Imagine Flagg paired with Cam Thomas, who can score in bunches, or Nick Claxton, a solid rim-running big. Suddenly, Brooklyn would have the foundation of a team that makes sense. And here's where it gets interesting. Flagg could even bring out the best in Simmons, if that's still possible. With Flagg on the floor, Simmons wouldn't need to worry about being the guy on offense. Flagg's scoring and playmaking could take the weight off his shoulders, potentially unlocking the defensive versatility Simmons once showed in Philly. But let's not get too excited. This is the Nets we're talking about. Even if they land Flagg, it's still an uphill climb. At least it would give the fan base something to cheer for beyond the lottery simulator. Still, not all potential tanking teams wear it on their sleeve. The Trailblazers have got veterans like Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons holding things down, and young talents like Shaedon Sharpe and Donovan Clingan trying to prove they're the future. On the surface, it looks like they're building something. But come on, let's not kid ourselves. Peel back the layers and you'll see a franchise that's practically perfected the art of strategic losing when the stakes are this high. Flagg landing in Portland would be a game changer, no question about it. Picture a front-court duo of Flagg and Clingan. Clingan's size and interior presence would allow Flagg to roam the court, erase shots, and terrorize opposing wings. And pairing Simons with Flagg would create a 1-2 punch that Portland hasn't seen since Damian Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge. Yes, I said it. Anthony's explosiveness and ability to draw defenders would open up the floor for Flagg's scoring and playmaking, while Flagg's basketball IQ and defensive versatility would take pressure off Anthony on both ends. But let's not forget the Blazers' track record here. This is the same team that has managed to waste prime years of franchise talent before. Can they surround Flagg with the right pieces and avoid their habit of almost building a contender? Or will they spend his rookie contract floundering in mediocrity before shipping him off somewhere else? Because as exciting as the idea of Flagg to Portland sounds, we've all seen how this movie ends. That said, if they get it right, we're talking about a team that could finally stop rebuilding and start winning. But why Cooper Flagg? Why now? The answer lies in his potential. Flagg isn't just good, he's special. We're talking about a player who dominated high school ball, reclassified to fast-track his path to the NBA, and has already signed major endorsement deals with New Balance and Gatorade. His presence has the potential to completely reshape a franchise for the next decade, becoming the cornerstone of both on-court success and off-court marketability. In a league grappling with declining viewership, Flagg could be the spark the NBA needs to capture a new wave of fans and re-energize the game. Yet, there's a problem, and it's one the league is scrambling to address. The NBA introduced anti-tanking measures to prevent this exact scenario, like flattening the lottery odds and penalizing overt tanking. But even with these safeguards, the temptation to tank remains too strong. So, where does that leave us? Right in the middle of a high-stakes race to the bottom. The Pistons, perpetual rebuilders, the kings of maybe next year. 2 straight seasons of being the league's basement dwellers, and what do they have to show for it? A talented but disconnected young core. Cade Cunningham, the do-it-all point guard who's been derailed by injuries. Jaden Ivey, a dynamic slasher who's still figuring out how to harness his speed. Jalen Duren, an old-school big man who's a beast on the boards but raw offensively. And Ausar Thompson, a defensive menace with star potential but a still developing shot. On paper, it's a promising group, but let's face it, they're missing the guy. The player who not only elevates their game but gives Detroit a clear identity. Flagg isn't just a missing piece, he's the piece. He could tie this whole mess together. His defensive skill set would instantly transform the Pistons into a team that's no longer a revolving door on that end of the floor. Imagine Flagg and Ausar locking down wings together. That's nightmare fuel for opposing offenses. And on offense, Flagg's versatility would open up opportunities for Cade to thrive as a facilitator without carrying the entire scoring load. Plus, Flagg's ability to stretch the floor would give Ivey and Duren the space they need to dominate in the paint. For a team that hasn't had a true franchise cornerstone since the days of Grant Hill, or maybe even Isaiah Thomas if you're feeling dramatic, Flagg could finally be the player to break the cycle of mediocrity. Sure, it means enduring yet another season of losing, but if it ends with Cooper Flagg in a Pistons jersey, isn't that worth it? Of course, this is Detroit we're talking about. They've had high picks before, and we all remember how those worked out. Looking at you, Darko Milicic. But if they can pull this off, the Pistons might just have a chance to be relevant again for the first time in what feels like forever. The same logic applies to the Jazz. On paper, the Jazz don't look like your typical tanking team. They've got Lauri Markkanen, fresh off a breakout season and locked into a long-term deal. Then there's Walker Kessler, who's quickly becoming one of the league's best young rim protectors, and Keontae George, a promising scorer who could be the spark plug the Jazz need in the backcourt. Not a bad foundation, right? But let's be honest, this roster isn't competing with the heavyweights of the Western Conference anytime soon. The Nuggets, Thunder, and Rockets aren't sweating about Utah, so why not pivot? Cooper could be the kind of player who could change everything for the Jazz. Imagine a frontcourt with Markkanen, Kessler, and Flagg. Markkanen stretches the floor and scores at all three levels. Kessler holds it down defensively in the paint, and Flagg? He'd be the versatile glue guy who ties it all together. Throw in his ability to create his own shot and drain threes, and suddenly, the Jazz have a core that can contend with the best in a few years. And let's not forget Danny Ainge is at the helm. This is the guy who turned a couple of fading superstars in Boston into Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He's a master at stockpiling assets and pulling off franchise-altering moves. If anyone knows how to turn Cooper Flagg into the centerpiece of a contender, it's Ainge. So, yeah, maybe the Jazz aren't tanking in the traditional sense, but don't think for a second they wouldn't take a step back this season if it meant landing Flagg. The Western Conference is brutal. Why claw your way to a play-in spot when you could set yourself up for a decade with one lottery ball miracle? Now, enter the 76ers, the team that trademarked tanking with the process, and somehow still managed to turn it into a meme for almost greatness. Now, here we are again, staring at yet another crossroads. Joel Embiid is battling his usual round of injuries. Paul George, acquired in a blockbuster move that was supposed to push them over the top, is underperforming. And Tyrese Maxey? Love the kid, but he can't help the team much when he's struggling to stay on the court. Sitting in 11th place in the East with a fan base that's equal parts exhausted and furious, Philly's faithful are asking a question we thought we'd left behind. Should they blow it all up? Flagg is the kind of talent that makes blowing it up feel a lot less painful. Let's say the Sixers decide to hit the reset button. Drafting Flagg would be the foundation for a whole new era. Flagg's skill set is tailor-made for Philly's needs. He's a defensive savant who could anchor a defense alongside or in place of Embiid. His versatility on offense could take the pressure off Maxey, if he's still around. And let's not forget his work ethic that would make him an instant fan favorite in Philly, a city that lives for players who grind. Imagine the Sixers building around Flagg and a healthy Maxey, with Embiid either playing alongside them, if he miraculously stays healthy, or flipped for a haul of assets to surround Flagg. Of course, the Sixers being the Sixers, you'd have to wonder if they'd actually get it right this time. After all, the process brought Embiid, but it also brought years of botched drafts, ill-advised trades, and, let's be honest, a lot of wasted potential. Could Philly actually build a sustainable contender around Flagg, or would they find a way to squander his potential too? Who knows? Maybe a third time's the charm for the process. But tanking isn't as easy as it used to be. The NBA's flattened lottery odds mean that even the worst team in the league only has a 14% chance of landing the top pick. Just ask the Pistons, who finished last season dead last, but ended up picking 5th. So, while losing games might increase your odds, it's far from a guarantee. And then there's the ethical question. Tanking feels like a betrayal to fans who pay good money to watch their teams compete. It's why the league implemented fines and rules to discourage it. But those rules don't seem to be working. Take the Raptors, who are at the bottom of the Eastern Conference and are now being accused of purposely throwing in the towel. The Raptors' losing streak has sparked debate among fans and analysts. Some argue they're playing the long game, aiming to pair Flagg with Scotty Barnes and Grady Dick for a future contender. Others believe it's unfair to the spirit of the competition. Either way, the whispers are growing louder. Are teams gaming the system to secure a brighter future? This leads us to the ultimate question. Is tanking a necessary evil in today's NBA? For small market teams like the Wizards or Jazz, drafting a star like Flagg is often their only shot at relevance. For them, the path forward is clear. Embrace the tank, endure another painful season, and hope that Cooper Flagg becomes the savior they've been waiting for. But for established franchises like the Sixers, the situation is much more complicated. Embiid's prime years are slipping away, and any talk of tanking risks alienating the fan base and undermining what's left of the process. Yet, the temptation to chase Flagg might become impossible to resist. This uncertainty has made the 2025 season unlike any other. Instead of clear bottom feeders, we're seeing a crowded field of teams subtly, yet unmistakably, angling for position. Some are trading away veterans to free up minutes for unproven rookies. Others are letting minor injuries linger a little longer than usual. At the center of this storm is Cooper Flagg himself. The hype surrounding the Duke freshman is more than justified. At just 18 years old, he's already drawing comparisons to legends. But here's the thing. Even landing Flagg isn't a guaranteed ticket to success. For every LeBron James, there's a Greg Oden. The history of the NBA draft is littered with can't-miss prospects who, for one reason or another, didn't live up to the hype. Still, for teams at the bottom, the allure of Flagg's potential outweighs the risks. The Wizards haven't had a true franchise player since John Wall. The Nets, still reeling from the Kevin Durant-Kyrie Irving era, are desperate for a fresh start. And the Raptors, who've been spinning their wheels since winning the 2019 title, see Flagg as their chance to build another championship-caliber roster. As the regular season winds down, the tension will only grow. Every loss, every trade, and every injury will be scrutinized through the lens of the Flagg sweepstakes. In the end, the race to the bottom is more than just a storyline. It's a reflection of the league's ever-evolving landscape. Tanking, for better or for worse, has become part of the NBA's DNA. Will the Wizards finally break their curse? Will the Nets' rebuilding gamble pay off? Or will a wildcard team swoop in and claim the prize? One thing's for sure, as the countdown to draft night begins, the NBA's race to the bottom is as compelling as the action at the top.